Hi everyone, welcome to week 5. So we are officially halfway through the term. So give yourselves a pat on the back for making it this far. So last week we submitted our second milestone. So if you did not have a chance to submit milestone 2, you still have time this week. Just make sure you get it in by Sunday midnight with a 10% late penalty. For those of you that did submit it, once you receive my feedback from your assignment, go ahead and try to incorporate it this week, just to keep things on track. So, I've looked at most of the ones that were submitted before the deadline, and so far everybody looks great. The only thing is that just make sure that you know how to cut and paste your graph from the Excel spreadsheet into your final project. So that's number one. And then also, when you're submitting your final project, any figures and tables that you use will need figure captions. Okay, so for the figures such as graphs and the pie charts, the figure caption will go below the figure. And then the table, such as the diversity indices table, that caption goes above. So tables, the caption goes above. Figures, the caption goes below. Okay, so you might want to just update that this week, just to give you one less thing to do in Module 7. So let's take a look at the information for this week. So this week we dive into community ecology. So last week we focused on population ecology, basically intra-specific competition between individuals within a population over a resource. This week, we're focusing on inter-specific competition. So that's competition between two species, so part of community ecology. In addition to inter-specific competition, we'll also look at other types of species interactions, such as predation, so predator-prey relationships, things like parasitism and mutualism and commensalism, and the other types of relationships that can happen between two species. So let's take a look at our introduction here. So by the end of this week, you will be able to explain the central tenets of the theory of evolution, including the importance of genetic change. You'll be able to compare and contrast the primary types of species interactions within a community. So again, the predator-prey relationships, competition, mutualism, commensalism, etc. And then finally, you'll be able to compare the ways that inter-specific interactions structure natural communities, including how patterns of human consumption fit into this picture. So think about if two species are interacting over a particular resource, but that resource is limited because of humans, how does that impact things? So again, here's just kind of an overview of what species interactions are all about. So you will be, taking a look at some examples of this in a video and some articles. And you're probably familiar with community ecology, just if you've ever watched like one of those nature shows and you see, the lion going after the gazelle or something like that. So all of that is part of community ecology. So as far as our reading this week, we will be covering chapters 12 and 13 of your textbook. So I highly recommend that you read the textbook before you do the discussion post, okay? Because you'll need some information in order to do your discussion post. We have a video that is about 40 minutes long, so this one's a good video to watch to help you understand what inter-specific competition is all about and how it impacts evolution. And then we have 3 articles that you'll be taking a look at as well, which goes through, symbiotic relationships like mutualism, as well as, some of the other information that is covered in the textbook, but is less confusing, I should say. And then for your discussion this week, this discussion, it's kind of two parts, so make sure that you cover both parts in order for you to get full credit. So the first part, you're describing what must be established before a researcher can definitively state that two species are competing for a resource. So how do we know that, for example, the squirrel and the mourning dove are competing with each other? Okay, how do we know that they're actually competing for a resource? They might be like not liking each other, but does that mean that they're actually competing with each other? So you have to kind of figure out what drives interspecific competition. So the textbook will be a good resource for you to look at in order for you to kind of establish the criteria that's necessary in order for researchers to determine if competition exists between these two species. And then the second part, you're going to take that information and apply it to some interspecific competition examples that you see within your own neighborhood. So, they give you examples like squirrels and chipmunks. So those are two different species. They might be competing for the same resource. So how do we know that they're competing for the same resource? What are we observing? And then in addition to answering the question of do you think the pairs of species that you regularly see provide examples of interspecific competition, meaning, they follow that criteria. The second part, a lot of students miss this one. Can you think of other explanations for those patterns that you observe? Okay, so for example, you might think the squirrels and the chipmunks are competing for resources, maybe over, nuts from a tree or something, the hazelnuts growing or something like that. But could there be other explanations for that? Do you think that perhaps those two rodents are kind of helping each other look out for predators? So usually if squirrels and chipmunks are interacting in the same area, if one of them gets alerted that there's a predator, it will scurry away, and that kind of shows the other species that there's, to dive for cover as well. So they may benefit each other by their presence to prevent themselves from predators. Okay, so things like that might, be some examples of other explanations for those patterns that you see. So even though you might think they're competing with each other, well, maybe they actually help each other out as well. Okay. So make sure you've completely answered all of these different parts before you post your initial post. And then as always, after you've posted it by Thursday midnight, make sure you return to our discussion post and choose two other students to respond to. So those responses, I keep reiterating that you need to make sure your responses are research-based, okay? So when you are writing your response, make sure you back up your opinions with evidence, okay? So if you, think that if you, give an example about what the student wrote about, then you need to back it up, okay? So where did you get that example from? Where did you, where did you get your information about why you think the two species described in your peer response are competing? Okay, so you need to use your textbook and determine if that is in fact what you learned as well, and cite those sources. So I automatically knock you down if I see that you haven't provided any evidence. We're at a 300 level course. You have to back up your ideas with evidence, with research, with citations, things like that. Okay. So those two responses are due by Sunday midnight. And then the last thing on your list is the quiz. So this quiz will be covering chapters 12 and 13. So it is a 10-point quiz. 5 points cover chapter 12, 5 points cover chapter 13. And of course, you can use your textbook while you're taking the quiz. There's no time limit. And if you don't get 100% on the first attempt, try it again. Okay? And then since we don't have any milestones, we have an optional exercise if you'd like to, practice making lists of or collecting data in a field exercise. So in this case, you're just basically walking through your neighborhood, or just look out your window and note basically any species that comes in your view. Okay, so it could be a species of tree, flower, bird, or whatever. Okay. So it's kind of like we're doing the McCannon method. Okay, so we're kind of just writing that down. Same process that we used in milestone 2. We analyzed the data to kind of determine if species are increasing at the same rate and so forth, the number of new species and so forth. So this is kind of an activity that you can do on your own if you'd like, just to kind of practice the methods that we learned about in the previous milestones. Okay, so I guess that's about it for now. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to either click the general questions discussion post and post them there, or you can email me directly. Take care this week.